The movie begins by showing us little Jenny playing with her dolls in a pretend tea party up in the attic. Downstairs, Jenny's father Jeff and her nanny Samantha are looking at the illustration that he had drawn. Jeff has forgotten about his daughter, who was alone in the attic. When his wife Maggie arrives, they hear a loud thump from the attic, and they rush upstairs and find their daughter's head horribly bruised after falling from the stacked boxes. Angry at her husband who neglected to watch their daughter, Maggie takes her daughter to the hospital, forbidding Jeff from coming with them. A few weeks later, Maggie files for divorce and they are called to the lawyer's office to finalize the papers. All financial holdings were put in his wife's name, and she wasn't requesting alimony or child support payments, but she was petitioning for full custody of their daughter. When asked why she felt as though having full custody was necessary, Maggie's dad, who's pretty pissed about the entire situation, responds by saying that Jeff was incapable of being a responsible adult. He thinks that what's best for his granddaughter is for her to get away as far from Jeff as possible. Jeff attempts to contradict his father-in-law's statements, but Paul quickly shuts him down by mentioning that he doesn't want to constantly worry about his granddaughter's well-being every time her mother is at work. This effectively silences Jeff, and Paul goes on to explain that Jeff has been unemployed for years, unable to even pay for the house mortgage, let alone provide a suitable home for their child. Maggie offers him a large check to leave her and her daughter alone because she wants to have sole custody of her daughter and start again somewhere else. But Jeff throws back the check and he tells her that he doesn't want to abandon his daughter. At the end of the day, the group arranges another appointment, and before leaving with her daughter, Maggie informs Jeff about his scheduled visit for the next day. Jeff politely requests to discuss the custody situation at their home, but Maggie asserts that it's her house and that he's only living there temporarily. She then closes the elevator door in his face. Going home alone, Jeff starts watching old home movies that they made a long time ago and starts to feel nostalgic. The next day, after picking up Jenny from her mother's house, he takes her out to get some hot chocolate. While spending time with his daughter, Jeff runs into his college buddy Connor, who tells him that he had started his own comic book company the previous year. He offers for Jeff to come over to his office and to take a look around to see if they could work together, and Connor tells him that he might be able to introduce him to some people to get his career restarted. During the conversation, Jeff receives a call from Maggie, who accuses him of forgetting to take their daughter to the correct pickup location, and while they argue about Jeff needing to behave like an adult and how he needs to sign the divorce papers, Maggie explains that she's received a job offer in Seattle and she's really contemplating accepting it. She threatens that she was going to take Jenny away and would make sure that he would never see her again. But suddenly, a car coming out of nowhere runs over Maggie on the quiet street and just drives away, killing her instantly. After the funeral, everyone gathers at the house for the wake, and Jeff was sitting on the chair watching his daughter next to her grandfather. He goes up in front of everyone to give a short eulogy, but it is very clear that it's not really heartfelt. And while speaking, Jeff notices one of the candles falling over and burning a portrait of the family that he had, but it only burns the side of Jeff's face just before Samantha puts out the fire. Later, Paul speaks to Jeff and insinuates that he might have had something to do with his daughter's death. He then tells him that it would be best if Jenny came to spend some time with him because Jeff was still unemployed. And that night, Jeff finds his daughter asleep in bed, with the tablet still playing the old home videos next to her. Exhausted after a very stressful day, Jeff goes to bed, and that night, he has this reoccurring dream about his old puppets twisted into something evil. In the following days, Jeff notices his daughter falling into a rut of depression and even refuses to draw, which used to be her favorite thing. One morning, while Jeff tries to make breakfast and fails, Paul arrives with a subpoena, trying to take Jenny away from her father just as Jenny wanted. Stressed out by everything that's going on, Jeff calls Samantha and tries to hire her to watch over Jenny while he goes out to clear his head. He then goes to his old college friend's office and asks for a job, and Connor happily gives it to him because it wasn't really that important of a position, it was just a shit job, but he had to take it anyways cause Jeff has to get a job if he's gonna keep his daughter. When he gets home, Jeff goes straight to his daughter's room to check on her and finds her asleep. While looking at her, Samantha accidentally startles him from behind and apologizes, and when she asks him how he's doing, he explains that he's doing fine and has even managed to land a job. As they talk, Samantha subtly suggests that perhaps Paul was kinda right and that Jenny should go stay with her mother's family for some time. And upset by the suggestion, Jeff tells her that he would never let that happen, and apologizing for for overstepping her boundaries, Samantha heads out. That night, Jeff sits at his desk to work on the inking project that he had gotten from Connor, and suddenly the light starts to flicker, and he enters this trance-like state where his hand involuntarily draws a strange figure. He's then startled out of the trance when his daughter calls him and asks him to check her room because she heard something. But once he looks at her room and makes sure everything is safe, he gets Jenny in bed and talks to her about her new habit of speaking like a baby. She tells him that she's doing it because she's sad, and he consoles her by telling her that it's okay to feel that way sometimes. The next day, while submitting his inking assignment, Connor and his partner Alan see the dark sketches that he's been doing and promote him to become a comic book artist for the new series that they're working on. Later, Jeff goes home and works on his sketch while his daughter watches a movie. Janet, his lawyer, calls him and lets him know that the preliminary custody meeting was set for the coming week. And after expressing his wish for the old man to drop dead from a heart attack so he can stop chasing after his daughter, Jeff hangs up the phone. He then gets his daughter to bed and continues to work on the new comic book. But suddenly, he hears his daughter screaming and rushes into her room to find her yelling out to him not to let it get her. Picking her up from her bed, Jeff takes her to his room and lets her spend the night with him. The next morning, Jeff plans out a nice day full of activities for him and his daughter to help Jenny with her depression. After playing with some puppets and dressing up, the two sit on the stairs outside and have cookies. That night, they sleep together in Jeff's bed because Jenny was too frightened to sleep alone in her room. The following day, Jeff sets up baby monitoring cameras in her room and tells her that it would make her feel safe just like it used to. Sitting Jenny down, he talks to her about what he thought that she imagined and tries to help her overcome her fears. Showing her the scary puppets that she always plays with, he tells her that she was once frightened of them too, but gradually she made them her friends. While trying to get his daughter to take a bath, Jeff accidentally looks at her notebook and sees the sketches that she made that looked exactly like his. When he asked her if she was in his studio, she tells him that she wasn't while running upstairs. Curious about the recent phenomenon happening in his house, Jeff starts to do some research on the connection between his daughter's imaginary friend and a recent death in the family. He's then interrupted by Alan, his boss, who truly believes in the supernatural, and they start a conversation about ghosts. Alan is sure that Jeff has seen more than he has said, just like he had, and in the middle of the conversation, one of the secretaries informs him that his father-in-law had been snooping around, trying to find out if he actually worked there. Hurrying out, Jeff finds Paul on the street and confronts him, assuring him that he will never take away his daughter. Returning home, Jeff takes Jenny and Samantha out for a stroll in the park. And while Jeff and Samantha were discussing new work, Jenny was watching a random puppet show, and Jeff experiences a vivid hallucination for a few seconds that really rattles him and makes him take his daughter home. In their house, Samantha seems to be showing an exceeding interest in his work and life, and she subtly pushes him to give Jenny to her grandfather. As Jenny runs up the stairs to brush her teeth, Samantha pours Jeff a drink and tries to kiss him, but he moves away from her cause he never really had that kind of thought about her before. And although he tries to calm her down, Samantha was too embarrassed by the rejection and she rushes out of the house. But she returns the next day with coffee to watch over Jenny and apologizes for her actions the previous day, but Jeff doesn't really think much of it. On the train down in the subway station, Jeff realizes that his hallucinations have started to get frequent and are more vivid than they were before, scaring him into thinking that there was more at play. Back at home, Samantha notices something disturbing up in the attic while trying to get Jenny to calm down and anxiously waits for Jeff to arrive and tells him that she felt a presence in the attic. After she leaves, Jeff heads into his studio and finds all of his recent work wrecked. Believing that it was his daughter who did this, he goes upstairs and confronts her, telling her that he could lose her if he ever loses his job. But Jenny mentions that he didn't want her anyways because he was willing to sign her over to Maggie, and shocked by the response, he asks her who had told her this, and she explains that it was her mom. The following day, Samantha orders some Chinese food for the family and serves Jenny a plate, and while eating, Jenny's peanut allergy gets triggered, sending her into a shock until Jeff rushes over and administers her medication. While Samantha watches him save his daughter, the chandelier on the roof comes loose and hits her on the head. When the police arrive, they find some markings on Jenny's body and take her upstairs for a private interview. When the police leave after making sure that she isn't being abused, Jenny goes up to the attic and sees her mom's ghost. She tells her that she misses her and they hug, while Maggie's ghost tries to drag her off the ledge, but Jenny pulls back and tells her not to do anything bad. After her accident, Samantha was made to rest in Jeff's bed until she felt better. When she awakens, she's attacked by Maggie's ghost by wrapping the blankets around her so she couldn't breathe. When she lets her go a few minutes later, Samantha panics and runs down the stairs to where the police and Jeff were speaking to Paul. When he sees her erratic state, Jeff suggests that she should go home and has one of the police officers escort her. Deciding that Jenny should stay with her grandfather that night, Jeff says goodbye to his daughter and asks her if Maggie is really in the house, which Jenny confirms. That night, when he's left alone, Jeff drinks the special herbal drink that his boss Alan had given him. It's actually ayahuasca, and he tries to make contact with his dead wife. Maggie starts showing Jeff different images and then makes him witness her car accident, which was actually a murder. Facing his wife, he tells her that she has to let her daughter go if she's gonna live a normal life. The following day, Jeff goes to a custody hearing and pleads his case, telling Paul that he has considered what is best for her and he's decided that it's best that she stay with her father. He also explains that he's decided to move them upstate so she can be closer to Paul, and happy to see the motivation in Jeff, Paul decides to dismiss the custody case. Paul then goes home and sees his granddaughter at their house and greets Samantha on the way. While waiting, he receives an email from his private detective about the person who murdered his daughter. Shocked by what he had seen, he forwards it to Jeff and leaves a voicemail urging him to call him. When he goes upstairs to get Jenny, he's startled and pushed by someone off the railing and tumbles down the stairs. When Jeff gets home, he finds Paul at the end of the stairs, severely hurt. While trying to help him, Paul pushes the phone forward and shows him the mugshot of the person who ran over Maggie, and it's apparently Samantha. When he confronts Samantha, she tells him that she did him a favor by getting rid of his mean wife. Samantha has now completely turned psychotic and drives Jeff back with a glass shard, but Maggie appears out of the shadows and forces her to stab herself in the neck. Maggie then tries to attack Jeff, but Jenny screams and runs up to the attic and climbs out the window. Following her up, he tries to pull her back, but they both accidentally fall out the window. And when Jeff awakens, he sees his daughter standing over him and tells him that they fell, but Maggie had saved them. The two then huddle up together on their step and say goodbye to Maggie. And that is how the movie comes to an end. If you want to watch more creepy horror movie recaps, make sure to subscribe and leave a comment. We'll see you next time. Bye.